In this episode, I'll tell you a little bit about domestic violence in India. Let me quote. According to the National Family Health Survey of India, 32% of married women aged between 18 to 49 have experienced violence from the spouse. 25% of women who experience spousal violence have reported physical injuries such as sprains, dislocations, broken bones, etc. There have been cases where even pregnant women have been victims of such domestic violence. Now I'm going to tell you a true story. I conduct workshops on women's safety, and in that workshops we have situational awareness, self-defense, physical strengthening exercises, and many other things. And many times when there are more adult women, and some of them come and confess and tell us about their experiences of attacks and violence, and also about some other people, their friends who they have heard about, their experiences, their stories of attacks and violence. Some of the women like to share it with the group and to sort of take the weight off their heart. And there are some women who prefer to talk to me separately after the workshop is over. This is one story of a lady who went through domestic violence for a certain reason, probably a cultural or community reason. She went through it. And this lady I met twice over a period of 10 years. First time I met her, she was in her late 30s, 36 or so. And second time I met her was after a 10-year period, which was when she was about 46 or so. The first time when I met her, I was only doing the workshops, I wasn't making videos about it. And the second time I met her, I was making videos, so I shared my videos with her. And she told me to give a message in my video. Now I'm going to tell you her story. First time when I met her at the workshop, she came and told me her story. She went through an arranged marriage, and her parents chose a rich boy, well-to-do boy, coming from a rich family, where rich enough to sort of have their weddings and receptions in 5-star hotels. So rich. So she was married off to this guy, and but after a month or so, she came to know that this guy had a gambling habit. He used to go and gamble his money, go to a gambling den. He had an addiction for gambling. And she came to know that he also used to frequent those places called dance bars. When she tried to talk to him about it, he got angry, he got upset, and he even slapped her first time. So first time she spoke to her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law told her that this man is your responsibility, you have to handle it. And पति पत्नी के बीच में जो होता है, वो होता है. Other people should not interfere. So the mother-in-law was not willing to speak to the boy about the slap which she got. So she tried to speak to him. She tried to convince him to stop this gambling habit and the dance bars, but that was his habit, his shock. And like many spoiled rich people, this is quite common. So it went on, and as she tried to convince him, he got more and more aggressive. There were times when a slap would drop her and have her head bang the corner of a table, and she would get a cut which needed stitches, bleeding, etc. There were times when she spent the whole night sitting outside the house on the steps. He used to come home late at night, drunk. She went through domestic rape and domestic violence. First, she was upset because her parents had got her married to this sort of a person. So she didn't speak to her parents for a number of years. Then at a certain point, she went to meet her parents during a festival time. And when she told this to her parents told her, "Ladki apne ghar mein achhi lagti hai. If she comes back to her parents' house, her younger brother's marriage prospects would get affected. उसके भाई को कौन अच्छी लड़की या अच्छे घराने की लड़की कैसे मिलेगी अगर बड़ी बहन आके घर में बैठी है तो." So she tried to convince her parents and they wouldn't listen, though, and they even said, हमारे खानदान का नाम क्या होगा, लोग क्या कहेंगे. So she went back. She was trying to talk to her parents, but it didn't work. She went back. And again, the same behavior pattern of the husband. He used to come home drunk, domestic rape, domestic violence. And even if she was not feeling well, and she used to protest, he used to tell her that you are my wife and I have a right to do whatever I want with you. These were his words. So she endured it. She couldn't go home. She was scared of him. If she tried to run away, he would catch her. Time passed on. This guy with his gambling habits went on, and at a certain point he had borrowed money from some local mafia and he couldn't pay them back, and these people had to leave the city and move to another city far away in a different state. So they did that. There again, this guy went on hunting for gambling dens and he continued with his habits. And then at a certain point, her brother's marriage was fixed and she came to her parents' house and to be part of her brother's marriage ceremony, and the marriage happened. Brother fortunately had got to marry a girl from a good family. He was happy, marriage happened, and then she went back after her brother's marriage happened. Then she continued living in the same environment, but then she decided the very next year, since her brother is already married, she's going to again go to her parents, tell her brother also. So she again visited the family during a festival. And she told her parents and she told her brother. Her brother, of course, said that she should, break the marriage, go for a divorce. Her parents said no. But after a certain point, the brother convinced the parents also that that would be the right decision to leave this kind of a man. So she went back. Her husband, the man, threatened her. He hid her certificates, her graduation certificates, things like that, by which she couldn't get a job and things like that. And he threatened her that if she told anybody about this, he's going to hit her more harder. And he's going to catch her if she tries to escape. So she again stayed there, scared, and didn't go approach anybody. Her family, her brother had told her that you make the decision, you come to us, we will protect you. But she couldn't get out and make the move because she would have to travel to a different state to get to where her parents lived. So she stayed there, and time passed. Then 10 years passed, and when she was about 46 or so, she again happened to come into the town I live in, and she attended my workshop, and she told me the second part of her story. When she had told me the first part of her story, I told her all these things about approaching a lawyer, approaching the police, approaching an NGOs who are willing to support such kind of women and getting out of that situation, getting a counselor and psychologists, all sorts of things. But the second time when she came and told me, she was about 46 and her husband was in his 50s. So she said her husband now is in his 50s and he's become physically weaker, and so he doesn't have the physical strength to hit her. So, and then she explained to me about how the transformation had happened. Basically, age and health-wise, her husband had become weaker and he wasn't able to physically hit her. So now things were peaceful in their house. Now this lady had endured domestic violence and domestic rape to help her brother get married to a good woman, a good wife. I had tears in my eyes when she told me the second half of her story. That she's okay now, she is at peace and she's safe. But she's gone through this for over 10 years. And she said, since I'm making these videos, she said she has a message to give to the parents. Parents who have a boy or a girl of a marriageable age. She said, unless the boy may be physically mature enough, maybe having a good job, earning well, but if he is not mentally and emotionally mature enough to take responsibility of the very concept of marriage, she said, do not get your son married. Same about the girl. If the girl is not emotionally or mentally ready to get into the responsibility of the marriage, do not get a marriage. And secondly, she said, if your daughter, he told me to tell the audience, if the daughter comes back to her parents' house because of a violence she's facing over there, do not send her back because log kya kahenge, khandan ka naam kharab ho jayega. These excuses. She's your daughter first. She said, to give this message to the audience. So I give this message to you, and please pass it on as you find it suitable to wherever you need to give it. Domestic violence is something, it's a psychological issue which has to be handled properly. The aggressive nature, the causes of the aggression, why it's happening, and why it's happening so much. And obviously, patriarchal society is giving the boy the power to feel that he's superior and he can tell anything or command anything, and the girl is some kind of a property, some kind of a object, a toy to be used as his will. This is what the attitude becomes of many men who are not taught properly by their mothers to respect women. If one is a victim of domestic violence, what to do? Women can call the free phone National Domestic Abuse Helpline, plus approach the police as soon as possible. Their medical examiner will photograph wounds, marks and damages done to the body as evidence. If an approach is made later when the wounds have healed, then this important evidence will not be available. Gather as much evidence as you can if possible. Video evidence and sound recording evidence also helps a lot. There are also NGOs who give you legal support. So please be ready to approach them. Talk to your friends, talk to your parents, talk to all your well-wishers. Do not be silent on this particular problem. So I leave you with this message. Thank you.